Good afternoon, guys. Today is August 8th, 2017, and we are continuing our natural magic series. Today I am going to talk about the origins of alchemy because it is something that a lot of people, it's easy to dismiss. I did the same thing. I came up in the Church of Scientism, so I wasn't really very interested in alchemy because it seemed like the pursuit of fools. And in some ways it is, because what happened was it got all twisted up, the meaning. So let's talk about the two of the most important things that happened in alchemy. One would be the obsession of the school of people trying to turn lead into gold, and the other being those who were in the search for immortality. And specific, the pill of immortality, or in the West it was called the Philosopher's Stone. Both of these are things that, this is exactly why the alchemists called them this. It's to mislead materialists away from the truth. Now, it sounds kind of counter because, as you know, the path of the bodhisattvas or the apostles is to lead people back to source. So why do that? Well, there's a concept in transcendental work of give the people what they want. If they want gold, then and dazzle them with promises that they will achieve this and that. Religions have done this for a long, long time. Here's what turning lead into gold really means. It means turning bad stuff in your life into good stuff. Turning samsara into nirvana. And in particular, turning your own negative self into your best positive self. You might even say, going back to God, finding the Lord, you might say any of those things. As for the pill of immortality, this is a deeper discussion than I can have, but I can tell you it has to do with the truth of birthlessness, the non-reality of the individual ego, and the soul reality of the all-God, right? That soul reality of the all-God. So, setting that aside, the pill of immortality is something that you actually produce inside the body and then you ingest internally. Setting that aside, let's focus on turning lead into gold. This I would consider natural magic in that you do not need to operate very complex breath mechanics, something you would find in Taoist yoga text or in the Key of Solomon, or the tablets of Thoth. You don't need to operate these very complex mechanisms to achieve very good results in your life. You just need the way. That's it. It could be the way of Christianity. It could be the way of Taoism. It could be the Buddhist way. You can achieve good results in all of these places because the mechanisms are in you. We've been talking about this already. So it just goes right back to the changes. It just goes right back to Tao. All that you need, God has given you. It's within your soul right now. And anybody that tells you to go otherwise, to go seek it in the mountains, that you need a guru, that you need to join a specific type of church, all of these things, or that you need ritual magic, are, again, the same allures that are used by those who preach about gold. I don't care if they're talking about monatomic gold or gold on your fingers. It's still all material. And attaching to form or to non-form, attaching to material or to non-material, attaching to void or non-void, all of these are attachment. And the problem is the attachment. And that attachment is based on, of course, the skandhas. So first of all, you fall victim to Maya, which is delusion. And then the skandhas, the senses, lead you away. And then the gunas delude you. And bada bing, bada boom, there you go. You are already making more garbage out of your perfection, out of your internal perfection that you were born with. When you look at a baby, there's no need of that baby to perform alchemy. They just came from heaven, so there's no problem there. So the question is, what happens to us? And it all has, of course, there's the foundations are laid in early life. That's where a lot of karma and bad genes are activated. And then, of course, nurture over nature is quite often the problem. And so all that being laid, the groundwork, the tilling of the soil, and the seeds are planted, Then when comes the heavenly waters, tiangui, and they start to flow, the person transforms into whatever they've been working on. Most of my friends dropped out of high school, or they gave up in some way. Some of them became criminals, whereas I didn't, because my father and my mother worked very hard, and thank you very much for doing that, to make sure that I ended up tilling the right seeds. But beyond that, and in my adulthood, I went through the same, production of lead, to try out alcohol, right? Sex, drugs, rock and roll, all the good things of life. And pretty soon, you're doing the opposite of refining the spirit. So turning lead into gold is simply going in reverse. So when we say reversing the flow alchemy, we don't mean that we're trying to actually stop up the mechanism from moving. We just mean that you turn around the behaviors, you turn around the intention, and you go back to God, or back to Tao, or back to Dharma. Same thing, right? These are just words, right? It's just nouns. All of them are ineffable, right? The true names of them cannot be known. So in going back, what are we really trying to do? We're trying to refine the self and return to the root. And ergo, turning lead into gold. As for this pill of immortality, to become a Xian, you need to work with your Xing and your Ming. And we've talked about Ming a little bit, about destiny and brightness, but I'll have to talk about that in depth another time. As for Xing, let's talk about nature. What nature are we trying to refine? Well, we're trying to refine out human nature, or what's called the human mind, or the human mentality. And we're trying to refine back to nature, as into a simpler self, right? The good self that Mengzi is talking about, Mencius. That we are trying to return back to the originality. Anything that does that is alchemy. You don't need, again, to take some kind of specific pill or join a cult of monoatomic gold people, or carry orgonite all the time. You don't need those things to achieve miraculous results in your life. You do need faith, and you do need a process. You need logic. You need to trust your head and your heart, but never one or the other without wisdom coming from the soul, because your intuition is going to help you, and your gut feeling is going to keep you out of trouble. All those mechanisms, but you can't trust any one individually without the work of the other ones, because you need all the five working together. And that is really the secret of the Chinese method, because it doesn't rely on one thing. In Kundalini Yoga, you definitely are working that sacral energy. You're definitely bringing it up. You're definitely going on out the top. And this becomes the obsession or the path of the Kundalini Yoga practitioner. This is not a thing that we believe in Chinese sciences. We also don't believe in becoming solely pacifist, because there is no indication that this realm around us is going to reward you for that. And there's certainly no indication that it is improving the world. We've seen plenty of pacifists, but we haven't seen yet a conquering of evil. So it takes a good person to conquer evil and to be real with everything. And this is where I want to lead to this. When we talk about reality tasting, when we talk about the metal and the wood in alchemy, it means you need to have physical touch on something, that there is a concreteness. Now, of course, we all know that everything is not what it seems. All the solids are not solid at all. They're empty. And all the colors that we're seeing are the opposite, actually, of what they are. We're just seeing the reflection. But what I do mean is that there is something palpable to what you do. There's actual proof, is the words that we're using. And this was the subject of my martial arts lesson last week for everybody here in the Berea school, is that you need actual proof. Once you've invested in a system, once you've invested time, you need actual proof that it can work for you. If you can't get that actual proof, you're wasting your time. And on top of that, you are possibly going to harm yourself or harm somebody that depends on you and thinks that you're an expert about something. You need to be ready to rock and roll. If you can't rock and roll at whatever the subject is, you need to stop and go into something else. There's no shame in that. Maybe you were bamboozled by somebody, and in which case, all is forgivable. Just be honest about the situation. Know who you are inside. I know I'm not a pacifist, right? I know many of my faults. from those things, I can work the, quote, magic. And then I can make changes to my life, my feng shui, right? Once I admit my fault in my marriage, then I can improve my marriage. Once I admit my fault as a parent, then I can improve my job as a parent and the child. But not if you don't admit, right? So honesty is the most important thing. If you're greedy and you want something, you want money, you want a career, you want a beautiful husband or wife, then be honest about that from the start. Don't lead yourself down a diluted path because it won't work out in the end. Okay, so that's what I wanted to say about alchemy from this stage that you need to know today.